Alright, for this video, this is going to be a Linux navigation video. I'm going to kind of teach you some basic commands. Commands like, let me pull up my text editor here, show you what we're going to cover. We're going to cover the change directory command, which is just a cd. We're going to talk about cd dot. We're going to talk about mkdir, or make directory. We're going to talk about the rm command, which is remove, the cp command, which is copy, and the mv command, which is move. We're also going to use nano, and I've separated this because it's not just a simple one-off command, but nano actually calls a program that operates within the text, within the command line interface, and it actually is a text editor. So, as you guys can see, I am on a Linux operating system. This is Ubuntu, one of the later releases, I guess, depending on when you're watching the video. I'm going to call up a terminal using Control-Alt-T, and we'll get started. Okay, so in the class, most of the work that you're going to have to do in the command line is going to be on the lab server. Okay, so we're going to use the SSH command, and the SSH command basically establishes an encrypted connection to the server. So if we want, we can add that to the list because we're going to talk about SSH, or we just talked about SSH. And I'm going to SSH as webstudent, which is the user that you guys will use. So again, the syntax is SSH the user, which is webstudent, and then at, which is the at symbol, and then the server, which is 10.216.2.200. Alright, so when you hit enter, it'll prompt you for the password for webstudent, CTE104. Enter that, and we're in. Now, if it is your first time accessing the server, you will be prompted to accept a key, an encryption key. That key is required for you to be able to talk over the SSH link since it is encrypted. Okay, so your grade is going to be based on a couple things. Since everybody is logging in as web student, you're going to see a lot of stuff in this directory. Actually, ls is a command we absolutely have to cover. So I'm going to add that to the list. ls, which is a list file command, will show you everything that's in the directory that you're operating in. So if you do a ls and then add some people call them switches, some people call them arguments, but ls-lsh is one that I use frequently, and the reason I use this is because it shows you all the files, but it also shows you who owns them, in this case web student, as well as the permissions. We won't get into this necessarily in this class. However, in future classes down the road, or if you're already in Tech Practicum or Practicum in IT, you might have already covered this. Short answer is basically this is a binary of the permissions for the user, the group that that user belongs to, and then everybody else. Okay, and it just lays out read, write, execute, and you set that by using binary assignments. So in here you can see there's a lot of files. Okay, so here is what you'll need to do for a grade, so make sure you do this part. You're going to create a directory using the mkdir. I'm going to create a directory, mkdir space Smith. So you're going to make a directory with your name, and I'm going to hit enter. And if you notice right now there is nothing in blue that says Smith. The blue is the directories, the white are the files. So now if I do an ls, because I just built it, you'll notice now in blue I do have Smith. It is case sensitive, so Smith lowercase, Smith lowercase. Alright, now I'm going to use the change directory command to actually enter the folder I just created. So cd for change directory, smith, I'm going to enter the directory Smith. Alright, if you notice that my command prompt now shows Smith, it's because I'm in this directory. If I do a ls to show everything in there, there should be nothing, because I haven't put anything in there yet. So therefore, that's why it goes to the next line without showing anything. Alright, this is for the grade. We're going to use another command called touch, and this command is a easy way to create a file without necessarily actually even having to go into the file. If you touch a file that already exists, it actually updates its modification date to when you sent that command. Sometimes that's necessary. However, we're going to use it to create a file so that you can get a grade showing that you have achieved this and you know how to do this. So again, it has to be in a directory that you created of your name, and then we are going to just touch Smith was here .txt, and that's going to create that file. So last name was here .txt, and now if you look around again, now that file is in this directory, Smith was here .txt. Okay, so that's one file that you'll need to create for the grade. Next off, we're going to talk about cd dot and cd dot dot. Okay, cd dot basically is not going to do anything. It's going to dump you in the same directory that you're in, but I want to talk about what the dot means. The dot is a symbol that represents the directory that you're in, and when we use the copy command or move command, you can actually use dot to say that you want to copy something into the directory that you are, versus typing out the whole directory path again. So we'll do that when we go to the other folder, and we'll come back and grab Smith was here and copy it into that one. Okay, now cd dot dot, the dot dot means to go up a directory. So if I do cd dot dot, you'll notice I've moved up a directory. I'm back in the original web student directory. I can do a pwd, which shows me where I am. Print working directory, home, web student. Let's add that to the list, pwd. Okay, for any files to be seen on the web server, there is a folder on this machine that any file needs to be in. Basically meaning if you want your file to be on the web server, you have to put it in this particular folder. That folder is at, and I'm going to type it over here in the notes, var www html. Anything that goes in this folder on this computer is going to be displayed by the web server. Okay, so you can build subdirectories, that's fine, but if you build a subdirectory, just know that when you're looking for that page, you have to include that or that subdirectory in the URL. Okay, so we're going to go to this directory, this var www html, by cd space slash, and we have to have the first slash because that is the root directory. We're going to go to var, then we're going to go to www, then we're going to go to HTML, and whether you put this last slash here or not is not as consequential as the first one. So I'm going to hit enter, and we're there. So I'll look around. Everything that's in this directory can be seen on the web server. Okay, so this is where your second grade is going to come in. You're going to make directory again, but this time, actually you're going to make directory again, and this time again, I'm going to use my last name. You can use your first or last as long as it's unique, and I can tell you apart from the other students. And again, I'm going to do another list, and I should now see Smith in here too. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the copy command to copy the original file, Smith was here, in the web student directory to this new directory that I'm in. Okay, and I'm going to use the copy command because I still want the original to be left where it was, because when I come in and grade, I'm going to check both of these locations. Okay, so I am going to do a copy command. And one thing that is important, if you're familiar at all with Linux and have heard the term sudo, sudo is a permission command. Basically, if you get denied access to something and you are an administrator, you can call sudo to basically invoke your administrative privilege. However, since the web student user owns the web student directory, and I'll show you here, also owns this web directory, you can see it's all owned by a web student, we can send a command like that without actually having to invoke administrative rights because we own both folders. So I'm going to do a copy, and the copy command syntax kind of goes like this. It's copy, it's from, it's to. It's simple. Copy from to. So when we say from, we're also going to include the file that we're copying. So the file was originally placed in home/webstudent, and then I'll show you a shortcut after this. And it was under your name, or my name, and then was it Smith, and I hit tab to actually do a tab complete, and Smith was here, .text. So this is my from location. Whoops. This was my from location, and then I'm going to put in a space, that's from, and then I'm going to put to. Now here's where I'm going to use the dot, because I want to copy it to, actually, I want to copy it to the Smith directory. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a dot, because the dot represents the directory where I am, but I'm also going to put a /Smith. Alright. And what this is going to do is this is going to put that file into this folder. Okay. So I'm going to jump into that folder, cd Smith, and look around, and here is that file that I just placed. Okay. So here in this copy command, I want you to understand that I use this dot to represent where I was, and then I put /Smith to represent the subdirectory. So it put it there. Now if I was in Smith already, which I am now, and I send this same command, I can just simply say from here to here. And here is just represented by a solitary dot. And if I hit enter, it does the same thing. Now, you know the file was already here, so in actuality what happened is it was just overwritten. If you're working in the command line, Linux is going to assume that you know what you're doing. It's not going to ask you if you're sure that you want to overwrite this. It's going to assume that you want to overwrite it because you told it to. So now we're going to move on to another command, mv, move. So let's say we have this file here and we want to call it something else. We want to rename it. Well, rename is not really an option here at this prompt, but there is a way we can accomplish that with the move command, and it works just like a copy. It's move from to. The syntax is the same, but what it does is it will actually get rid of the old one and replace it with a new one, since it is a move function. So if you're actually moving it to a new location, it'll take it from where it was, put it in the new location. But here we can use it to rename something, and we can say mv to move Smith was here.txt, and again I'm using tab complete to type that out real quick, to Smith was not here.txt. And when I execute this command, you'll see this file go away and the new file take its place. So I hit enter, it completed, and I do the ls, and now you see only the new file exists. Now had that been a copy, and I copy Smith was not here to Smith was here, you should notice that now I'm going to have two files in this directory because I copied one to the other. And so when I call it up, I see Smith was here, and then I also see Smith was not here. So that's really the difference between copy and move, where copy keeps the original, move eliminates the original. Okay, so we've covered CD, we covered mkdir. Let's talk about remove. So I don't think Smith was not here is a good idea, so I'm going to do a remove. And since it's a file, since it's just a file, not a folder, it's no special switches or arguments on it. I'm going to remove Smith was not here and enter, and just like that it is gone. Okay, so last thing we're going to do here, and we'll close up this video before it gets too long, is we're going to put some text in this file right here. So in this file you're going to tell me what you think your grade should be. So we need a text editor to do that. So I'm going to call one. I'm going to call nano Smith was here.txt, and as long as that file exists, it's going to open it. If it didn't exist, it would create it and allow you to edit it. So you have to be careful with that, because sometimes you could open up, you have a typo in the file and think you have all this code, you open it up and there's nothing there, think you lost your code, when in reality you just typoed. But anyway, I just created this. I know there's nothing in it. Let's add something. I think my grade should be a 100. Alright, so you tell me what you want to put in the grade book in this file. And then if you look at the bottom, all of these commands down here are initiated by control. So if you needed to get help, it's control G. If you needed to save it without exiting, control O. If you're looking for a particular word in this document, control W, so on and so forth. I do want to exit, so I'm going to control X. But if you notice, it stops me. It says, hey, you haven't saved yet. Do you want to save? So I'm going to type yes, I want to save. Or actually, I'm just type Y. If you hit Y, it'll take you to the next part. Then it'll say file name to write, smithwashere.txt. That's right, I don't want to change it. And so I'll hit enter. And now it's written. One way to look at what's in the file is the cat command. You can cat smithwashere, and it will tell you what's inside. So I'll add that as the last command to the list, and that basically will conclude this video. You're going to be graded on the original smithwashere being in the webstudent directory, as well as the copy here on the var www.html directory, and then finally you'll be checked to make sure that you have this text with your grade inside the file.